not necessarily just from a food source, and I think I talked about that before in here. As I was going through trying to detox my body of toxins because my body can't do it itself, they said, well, you can either soak in Epsom salt 3 times a week or come in and get an IV infusion, weekly, and I chose the Epsom salt bath. And I have found it to really be helpful in muscle issues. So I just wanted to touch on that and just to point out that, don't overlook magnesium as something that can be helpful when you're dealing with soft tissue, especially. Okay? All right, so we're jumping over to trace minerals. So these are the ones that you need less than the 100 milligrams per day. So remember, macro minerals you need greater than, trace minerals you need less than. And iron is one of those. And probably one of the biggest things, we'll get it figured out here. One of the biggest deficiencies that is most common, maybe among some of our female athletes especially, is anemia. That there's a low hemoglobin count, which means the oxygen that is getting delivered in through the body is decreased, and you're fatigued. There's just a fatigue has set in, and it could be this iron deficiency. Okay, very rare is an overload of iron, but it can become toxic. And when this happens, so some men have this. I would say most women, especially premenopausal, that are from teenage years up to 50-ish, won't ever have this issue. And one of the ways that they talk about that you can either get an overload or that somebody who is deficient in iron can get their irons up to snuff is cooking in an iron skillet. All right, which kind of tells you a little bit too about what you cook in and how that can leach into your food. Because if you can get iron from cooking in an iron skillet, just think if you're cooking in plastic or you're doing other things, you're cooking in cookware that has chemicals in there, you're ingesting that, okay? So that's just a little side extra note there. But iron skillets are great. So if you or someone is anemic, then use an iron skillet. Help bring that iron deficiency back up into balance. Here about 6 milligrams per 1,000 calories. So then if you look down, at our, what we should be getting, the RDA, little bit different, 8 milligrams for men and postmenopausal women, and then 18 milligrams for that, teenage to 50-ish for females. So this is a little bit different than what that says, but in the women especially, it's more important. So if you think about a 2,000 calorie diet, 6 milligrams per 1,000, so we're talking about 12 milligrams. We're 2/3 of the way to the RDA. So daily values, the 18 milligrams that we're looking at, the upper limit is 45 milligrams. Okay. And then also, we talked about the iron skillet, but also ingesting vitamin C helps with the absorption as well. So when we are looking at sports, you can end up with too little. Sports anemia, so the plasma volume, so ingesting high amounts of water, diluting the red blood cells, is one way that can happen. Also, hematuria. So if you have runners, especially your elite distance runners, the blood vessels can but the red blood cells can be damaged from the foot strike over time, and so that gets sent out and it's excreted in the urine. And so that's hematuria. So kind of pulling from, have you guys all already had the medical terminology with the pharmacy course? So did you guys talk about these? So that makes sense to you? No? Do you guys, does he still do that? Who has had that? Who's had do you guys still talk about medical terminology in there?
We just do worksheets.
Okay. Okay. So whenever, all right, then I'm just assuming you guys have had it, so I just keep talking. Whenever you see, the hemat, all right, we're talking about blood, all right? Urea, we're talking about urine. So blood in the urine is what that is, hemoglobin in urine. And so that can happen with long distance running with a high quantity of training. To increase levels, some different things that you can do, we talked about this in strength training. Some of you guys did this as your project. Blood doping is where you can be injected with extra red blood cells to increase that in your system so that more oxygen is carried to the body, right? So that you're able to perform better. And these are more for aerobic type of athletes. A better way, more maybe ethical, would be to do more altitude training. So train and live at a higher altitude than you compete. And what happens there is that because you're at that higher altitude, you're not able, I don't know all of the details, but anyway, your blood kind of is thinner, right, up there. And so your body creates more red blood cells to get the oxygen through your body. And so then when you come down to train, you have these extra red blood cells and they're doing their work better at the lower level. And so, athletes do that. And so when we talk about ergogenic aids, that is a natural way to get something where the blood doping you really shouldn't be doing. And you can also take supplements there. You do want to be careful if there's too much. It can cause liver damage. Remember, our liver does a lot of, the processing of different things. And so we don't want to overload it. We don't want to make it work extra hard. Okay, so when you're talking about the iron and doing supplementation here, and not even just iron, but with any of the vitamins and minerals that we've talked about, first you want to look to your food. You want to try to get as many of your vitamins and minerals that you can from your food, which means you're looking for higher quality food to ingest, and and you're picking more of the nutrient-dense foods. All right. And so when we're specifically talking about iron, iron is especially in our animal foods. And so if you're vegetarian, that's something that you have to think about and be a little more intentional with getting the foods that are higher in iron. Kidney beans is one of those. Baked potato is one. So, yeah. Thoughts on iron? Okay, I am going to keep going because I really would like to get through this, but I will stop on time. But water, we've actually talked about water some, so I am not going to linger here long. But so your AI for water, they're talking about 4 quarts a day for males, about 3 quarts a day for females. My issue with this is they're not talking about weight. So I have a little bit of an issue with this. I think this is kind of high. If we look at that, there are 32 ounces per quart. Am I right? 32 ounces per quart. So if we multiply that out, we have 128 fluid ounces for males to drink. One of the things that I usually tell people is to ingest about half your body weight in ounces. So if you weigh 150 pounds, get about 75 ounces. And then if you're an athlete above that, you're going to want to intake more water. Now this is looking at from everything, so don't go out and drink a gallon of water because it's looking at the fruits and vegetables that you're eating as well. It's looking at, you know, juices or whatever, whatever food you're intaking, it's looking at the water level of those included. And so that helps a little bit, but it doesn't really help when you're talking to somebody about how much water should you drink. So I kind of like that, 1/3 to 1/2 your body weight in ounces. See how you feel. You know, your urine should be pale yellow. I think that's next. Might not be next. It's not next. But your urine should be pale yellow. Your skin should rebound quickly. If it doesn't, you might be dehydrated. You know, so pay attention to the body. If you are thirsty all the time, you are working in a dehydrated state. And you would be amazed at how good you feel when you are hydrated. How much clearer you think and how much, you know, just optimally physically that you would be. Water is very, very important to all of the systems of the body. And so you need to make sure you're getting it. But we'll talk about in a second, hyponatremia, which is, you know, too much water can decrease the electrolytes in the body, which can actually lead to death. So like everything else, you know, there is that upper lower limit that you have a range to work in. Okay, so in exercise, some things that you want to pay attention to is beforehand, hydrate, during, hydrate, and then afterward, especially if it's during the heat, weigh yourself before you exercise. Go out and exercise, weigh yourself again. Whatever you have lost is water, okay? And so then, depending on, you know, how much water that you have lost, how many pounds that you have lost of water will depend how much you need to ingest afterward, all right? And so, you know, a lot of stuff is happening when you're working out. If it's for a long period of time and it's warmer, you need to make sure that there is a continual ingestion of water. Cool water is absorbed faster, and then here is the 2 to 3 cups per pound loss. So if you lose 2 pounds while you're working out, you need to ingest 4 to 6 cups of water afterward. Okay. So here is just looking at kind of the balance that you have. You know, so you're ingesting, you know, they used to always say, you know, your 8 cups, 8 ounces of water that you get in a day. And then how much is in food, how much is produced by the body, not enough to survive. So you have to ingest it somehow. And then what happens on the other end, you know, perspiration. There is water loss just with breathing. Right? Water lost in urine and then a little bit in the feces. And so you need to, just living, you're losing water, so you have to make sure you're ingesting it. And then with exercise, you have to increase that, all right? There. Okay, we talked about this. And so ACSM recommends hyperhydration prior, but the biggest thing that they say is important for optimal performance and just to make sure that you have enough water is the rehydration. So during exercise and then post-exercise to make sure you're rehydrating the water to keep the fluid levels up. Okay, there's a little thing, you guys can read this, but talks about, you know, to be prepared, you know, to make sure you have enough water when you are out doing activity. So hyponatremia, so this is where the serum sodium decreases because of too much water. So people who've gone on these water crazes and they're just ingesting water, it can have an effect because it decreases the solution of sodium. So you need to, that is when I say sports drinks are important. You know, when you're sweating profusely, you're losing your electrolytes, make sure you're getting either, salt somehow in, or drinking something that has electrolytes in it. All right? Okay, I'll have to pick this up. We'll do this a little bit, but Wednesday, Friday, we'll still do the movie, but I'll start with this just to wrap it up quickly, and then we will start the movie on Wednesday.